Hi, it's Elizabeth Willetts here from Investing in Women, and I am absolutely delighted to be welcoming Lizzie Martin from Work Life Mother today, where we're going to be talking about how to craft your personal story. So, Lizzie has loads of brilliant tips and information that she can give you. So I'm really, really excited to have our discussion today. We are live today on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So yeah, if people as they're logging on could let us know if you can hear us all right. But Lizzie has a brilliant presentation for us, so we'll get going in a minute. But yeah, just to say thank you so much, everybody that's going to be watching this live and on the replay. We can't wait to share Lizzie's slides, and we're going to be talking about crafting personal stories. So, hi Lizzie. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself and a bit of an introduction to you and your business.
Yes, Liz, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I can promise everyone it's not going to be death by PowerPoint. I have got 3 slides, but that's to bring it to life for those that are visual learners. But please, if you've got any questions, do throw them into the chat. It would be brilliant to have this as like an engaging 30 minutes rather than a monologue from all coming from me.
I'll have questions. I've loads of questions. I'm really excited.
Brilliant. So I'm Lizzie. I am an executive career and leadership coach. I run my own business, which is Work Life Mother. And a lot of my work is about supporting individuals with career transitions.
Yeah.
And most often that is either returning back to work at the end of maternity leave or relaunching a career after a break. A lot of my clients have that break because of maternity leave and sharing and caring for small children. So I know what it's like to have a break on your CV and to think like that you're walking around with this neon sign on your head, almost like flashing to anyone who comes close saying career break, alert. So I've worked with clients that have had career breaks from, anything from 18 months up to 14 years. So, getting back into the workplace, being able to find a job that's not only fulfilling but also meaningful, I know is so important for many individuals. So we're going to have a look today at crafting your personal story. So this is very much about how you can articulate not only why you left your previous job and why you've got a gap on your CV, but what you're looking for and what you're going to bring to the table.
Yeah. So why do you think people need a personal story?
Brilliant question. So if you've got a personal story, so let's call it an elevator pitch or a positioning statement. It means that you can communicate really consistently to all of your network who you are and what you're looking for. It also helps you to be really succinct. So I don't know about you, but I've been in situations where someone has asked me quite a straightforward question and I found myself like really waffling, probably talking about things that aren't particularly relevant, maybe apologizing along the way. And it's a way of keeping what you're talking about really relevant, really succinct, and it's going to help you feel confident. So if you've got a plan of what you're going to say and you practice it and you hear yourself saying it out loud, it's gonna boost your confidence. And the more you do it and the more you practice it, when you do eventually come to stand in front of someone or be on the phone to somebody talking about who you are and what you're looking for, you're going to have a greater impact.
Definitely. Okay, that's good. And what do you think are the biggest challenges to creating a personal story?
So I think for lots of people, I think talking about yourself is just a really uncomfortable thing to do for lots of people. Being able to say, these are my strengths, this is what I'm good at, this is my expertise, these are my skills, particularly if you've had a break, you're out of practice and it can feel unnatural, and therefore we can find it a bit icky, potentially like a bit cringy. So we might kind of shrink it a little bit and sort of rush through it rather than holding the space, and particularly with women, I think being confident that you are worth talking about for 30 seconds, for 2 minutes, and holding that space, and not just thinking that you need to brush over yourself really quickly.
Yeah, really good advice. And I'm sure, I think we all can relate to that, feeling that either you waffle and it's not concise, or you don't say enough, and it's quite hard, isn't it, to get the right balance.
Yeah.
So have you, I think you've created some slides you're going to share. You were happy to share your screen?
Yeah, so I think what I'll do, so I'll talk about the two different types of statements that you might want to consider. And then when I'm talking about the positioning statement, I'll share my screen, because that's the one that's got all the fancy boxes on it.
Okay, good. Yeah, go on.
So there are two statements that you might want to consider. So the first one is your exit statement. So your exit statement is the description of why you left your last job and what you're looking for.
Okay.
So it's basically made up of two things, which are those two things. So you might want to say something like, I left my job to focus on my family, or I left my job to pursue some hobbies, or I left my job because the business went through a process of redundancy. Whatever that reason is, what is the reason why you left your last job? Get it really, really simple. It doesn't need to be full of emotion. It can just be quite objective.
That's good. I think probably people sometimes, I know I've probably been guilty of this, over explaining.
Yes, because you feel like you've got to really compensate for the reasons why. Like, why did you leave your job? I thought you were happy there. All those sorts of things that might be going on in your head. And I think it's about just owning that decision, particularly if you left because you left to raise your family. You don't need to explain to people your motivations behind why you wanted to focus on raising children. Like, we don't have to explain our decisions. That's a very weak thing for us to have to do, to like explain why we decided to leave our jobs. I did it. I left my corporate job during my first maternity leave to raise my children, and I made the conscious decision that I was going to have a career break. I found myself feeling like I had to explain it to a few people, and then I was like, hang on a second, I don't need to explain my decisions to other people. It's so focusing on what you did rather than why you did it, I think, is really important. So I left my job, or I left my last job, so that I could focus on my family. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. And then you want to add on and what you're looking for. Now I'm looking for a new role in the marketing industry, and now I'm looking for something fulfilling that plays to my strengths of managing teams. So super simple. Why you left, what you're looking for. And just literally one or two sentences.
And you mentioned something about using the word focus before we came on here, rather than prioritising.
I
thought that was quite good. I think
there's like a subtle difference, isn't there, between prioritizing and focusing. Like, if you're you can only prioritize one thing at a time. But if you say, I left my job to prioritize my family, I don't think anybody would ever say that one thing is necessarily more important than the other. It's just some chapters of your life require your focus to be different. I am incredibly passionate about my career, and I'm also incredibly passionate about my family. And some days, gosh, the priorities absolutely work. Sometimes I can't wait to get away from childcare and to focus on work. But I think if you talk about, I was focusing on this, then I decided to focus for a couple of years, or a few more years. It was an intentional decision. And now I'm focusing back a little bit more of my time on work. It's not about saying I'm ranking these things against each other. It's just about saying I consciously chose to focus on one thing, and now I'm consciously making a decision to focus on something else again.
That makes sense.
Rather than, as I said, like ranking them off each other. I think that doesn't necessarily help our mindset.
I like that. Thank you. Thanks, Lizzie. That's good.
So shall I talk through? Has anybody got any questions so far?
I can see there's a few people watching. So if anyone's got any questions, if you just pop them in the chat. So what I could do now is share my screen.
So if I share my screen here, so I've created a little kind of grid.
Okay, let me add it to the stream.
You add it to the stream.
There we go.
Perfect. Okay. So the positioning statement.
Yeah.
So this is a bit meatier than your exit statement. So it's either a spoken or a written way of telling a bit more of your story. So this is the bit where you're really starting to craft your story to add a bit more meat to the bones.
Okay.
You might think of it as an elevator pitch. That kind of makes me like panic a little bit, the idea of an elevator pitch. So I've called it a positioning statement.
Yeah, I think elevator because you're thinking, oh god, it's got to be really short.
and a positioning statement is something that you're going to use in emails to people, in maybe LinkedIn messages. It might go in a cover letter. You might suddenly get asked at the nursery pickup or at the school gates, oh, tell me a bit about yourself and what you're looking for, and you suddenly think, oh my god, I wasn't expecting this. So if you've got this kind of in your back pocket, you can, and you've practiced it, you can kind of whip it out and it's going to become more natural. And as I said before, it enables you to be really consistent. So if you are searching for a new job and you're saying something different to every single person you come across, it's really hard for your network to enable your next step because they're all working off a different story.
Okay, yeah.
So you want it to be brief. There's 4 ingredients to your positioning statement, and I've used the acronym POSE to hopefully make it a bit more memorable. So the P of the positioning statement is your profession. So this is going to be either how you describe the work that you do, or it might be your last job title.
Okay.
So I am an accountant, or I work within the education sector, or what is the role that you have had.
Okay, so I could do it. I'm a recruiter, something like that.
Yes, something like that. Yeah. So I am an accredited executive career and leadership coach.
Right, yeah.
Then the O is where you've worked and kind of whether you have an industry specific focus. So this is where you want to brainstorm, like, what kind of organizations have I worked for? Have they been large organizations? Have they been startups? Are they international companies? Maybe they're small businesses. Is it a particular industry or sector? So is it financial services? Is it the charity sector? Just pop down in that box what you've been working on in your career to date.
Okay.
So the type of work you do, your job description, and then what are the types of organizations that you've worked in.
Okay, so I could say I'm a recruiter with a background in financial and professional services, or you could do your work.
Yes, so I'm an accredited executive coach with 10 years of experience working in the retail sector.
That's good, isn't it? It's nice. It's concise and it gets to the point.
So completely concise, quite a factual, really, this bit. It's just gathering that evidence. Then you're going into strengths and expertise. So this is the S and the E, so pose. And you don't have to do this in order. So these 4 letters, you can describe yourself in any order. So I don't want you to feel like this is some rigid way or some like formula that you have to follow. So strengths is all about like what is unique about you. So what are your qualities? It's like, how do you do your work? So lots of people might be a recruiter in a financial services industry. But the strengths part is a lot about what sets you apart. So what about Liz? What is unique about you? And this is
the hard one,
the challenging one. Yes.
I'll be like,
we don't know what our strengths are.
I'm sure everyone feels the same, like, what? I'm just like me.
I'm just me. And this is it. This is a perfect example of where we can focus on the P and the O quite easily, right? You saw how easily you could pull that together, and that was off the cuff. And then when we start to talk about our strengths, we start to sort of shrink a little bit. We're like, oh, I don't really know what I do. So I actually do a lot of work on strengths with my clients, identifying what your strengths are. And I'm holding a workshop in July, so I can give you the details for that. But holding a workshop in July specifically to help individuals identify what their strengths are, so that you can not only communicate it to others, but bring it to life in all that you do,
and feel it as well. I think that's it, isn't it? It's all got to marry together. You got to say it but feel it, and then it will.
Yeah,
you'll be able to show that even more, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then expertise, this is about your skills and your competencies. So these are the things that you have learned in your career. So, what experiences have you had? Is there a particular software that you're skilled at? Is there a particular project that you've worked on? That is the information that you would put in that box. So you might say that you're Liz, you're a recruiter, you've got a history of working in financial services, and you've launched a new system for recruiting talent into senior positions or something. So that's very much thinking about what experiences have you had, or what skills
or key achievements. I mean, this is from a recruiter perspective. Where have you made a difference in a previous role, or whatever you've done at home, something like that.
Yeah, and this might be a box that when you do a bit of work on it, there's a lot of information in there, and remember that will be going in your CV. So that's the body of your CV. This is about trying to pick out like the one or two most relevant pieces of information. That's relevant for the type of job you're looking for. So I've got some examples that I thought we could have a look at. So I've got example 1. So this person here, as you can see, hasn't put much into the boxes. So their profession is they're an office manager and they have volunteered. They've worked with local charities. Their strengths are that they have particularly good attention to detail, and they're really good at keeping an office running smoothly. So that's what they're going to bring to the table. Whereas, I might bring chaos. Not that that's a strength, but I definitely wouldn't have this strength. I would have a completely different strength to that person. And their expertise is working with clients, leading meetings, and being able to use all the Microsoft Office programs. So don't have to put lots of information into these boxes, but then you can sort of beef it out in your paragraph. So as you see here, their positioning statement is a highly motivated and experienced office administrator. I'm currently looking to resume my professional career after an extended hiatus to raise my family. Proficient in all Microsoft Office programs, I can lead meetings and work with clients to keep your office running smoothly and efficiently. I have great attention to detail. After spending several years volunteering as an administrative worker for a local charity, I am committed to resuming my professional career on a part-time basis.
Brilliant.
Simple, succinct, completely relevant, a bit of personality in there, using the word hiatus, I
was really impressed you used that word, and I was like, God, I wouldn't even know how to pronounce it.
I think they only know how to pronounce it because I'm sure One Direction went on a big hiatus and it was over, it was all over the news.
Well, that's why I smiled. I was like, God, it's a good word.
So there's obviously loads more things that this individual is able to do, but that is the headline, right? This is the positioning statement. This is what I've done. This is the type of space I've been working in. And this is what I'm going to bring for you. I'm going to keep your office running smoothly and efficiently, and I've got great attention to detail. Somebody reading that is going to think, that is exactly what I need in my team. So that's example 1. I've got another example here. So we've got a sales manager here. So a sales manager, so that's their profession. And again, it's quite broad, right? Sales manager, that might mean different things to different people, but that's fine. They've worked for small to medium enterprises. So those are the types of organizations they've worked for. Their strengths are that they're particularly good at developing other people and growing talent. And their expertise has been a lot around building teams, managing budgets, and marketing. So, these are things that they've learned, whereas these are things that are their innate talents. So then when you beef this up into their positioning statement, you've got, with over 15 years as a sales manager, I have extensive experience building high-functioning sales teams, that consistently achieve budget numbers. In fact, my ability to grow talent led to a 20% increase in annual renewals across the board. Now, after 15 years working for established SMEs, I am seeking new challenges to flex my marketing muscles in a fast-paced environment.
Good.
So gives you a little bit of insight into that person's personality as well. You know, looking to flex my marketing muscles.
Yeah.
They're also saying that they're quite comfortable in a fast-paced environment. So really being able to get a lot of information into quite a small space.
Yeah.
And they've put in a nice statistic here as well with the 20% increase in annual renewals. So
people notice that, I think.
Yeah. If we want to go on for one last example, I did mine. I thought you might want to see mine.
Yeah.
Which I sort of scrambled together this morning for you all. So my profession is that I'm an executive career and leadership coach. There's my mouse. Here we go.
Lovely, yeah.
I've worked for John Lewis. I've also worked for a number of coaching academies, and I also run my own business. So those are the types of organisations that I sort of have worked in and I currently work for. My strength, so this is my killer line, is I'm the kick up the bum that inspires others to be their best.
Yeah.
And my expertise has been a lot around developing teams, managing business units, running my own business, and building coaching programs. I probably put quite a lot in there. So then if you pull that into my statement, I would say something like, hi, I'm Lizzie. I'm an accredited executive career and leadership coach. My background is in retail leadership, and I have successfully managed profitable business units for John Lewis and led teams of 300 to high performance. I'm looking for coaching opportunities to help develop individuals and teams to have more confidence and impact at work. I am the kick up the bum that inspires others to be their best.
We've had a question here from someone on Facebook. We haven't touched on this. She said she was a couple of minutes late to the session, so we may have touched on this, but we haven't. So in your exit statement, how do you positively explain that why you were made redundant, and that to trigger your career break to focus on your family? That's a good one, because I was made redundant, so I'm interested.
Yes. So I think that hi, thank you, whoever has put that question.
Yeah, it just says Facebook user on StreamYard, so apologies, we haven't got your name. Sorry about that.
So from my perspective, I don't think that you need to go a lot into the why. I think you can just say my business was going through a restructure, and as a result, you know, I was made redundant. My role was made redundant. Remember, it's not you that was made redundant. It was your role was made redundant.
That's good. It's not personal.
It's not personal. No. It's not personal. And also, I would say that we can sometimes attach quite a lot of taboo to redundancy, like, oh, maybe I did something wrong because I was made redundant. It is totally normal. It is how so many businesses restructure. I've been made redundant. Liz, you've been made redundant. Yeah, my husband's been made redundant. I would say when you look at our generation, being made redundant at some point in your career is probably very, very normal. What I would also say is that the average sort of career pivot for our generation is going to be somewhere between 5 and 8 career changes that you're going to make. So try and normalize it in your head. But I don't think you need to go into the why. You can just say, you know, my company, Green Sparks, went through a restructure, and as a result, my role was made redundant.
Yeah.
So I used the time to focus on my young family.
Yeah.
If you can focus on making it as objective as possible, you know, you don't want to start saying like, oh, I was considering leaving anyway because I wasn't quite sure whether it was the right job for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd started to reconsider whether the work that I was doing on a daily basis was really playing to my strengths. That's just, you don't need to go into that level of detail.
That's like the waffle, isn't it, I suppose? And I suppose any more you say might be taken the wrong way. You don't know how things are gonna. If you keep it factual, it's probably
Yeah, I think keep it factual. If somebody wants to know more, they'll ask.
Yeah.
You know, and bearing in mind that your positioning statement is to help you get your foot in the door. It's to try and get you into the interview room.
Yeah.
You know, this is a kind of the front end of the process. If somebody is going to probe and ask more, then, you know, you're going to already probably be in that interview scenario.
Yeah.
What is your experience, Liz? Do you find that recruiters or interviewers do dig into the why, or do they just want to know the what?
Well, I never do into the why. We did always ask reasons for leaving, but that was when I was like back in agency. It was more like, you need to check no one went to prison. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think I never ever had any candidate that had a reason for leaving because they'd gone to prison.
But I think it's interesting, isn't it? So if somebody is asking you why you left, we might be automatically jumping to the defensive.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're judging me for the fact that I left. So we therefore might automatically jump to some negative storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's say you left because you didn't get on with your boss. You might be thinking, oh my gosh, this person knows that I didn't get on with my boss.
How do I explain that as well?
They don't need to know. You get to pick what goes in the story. You just say, do you know what? I felt as though I was ready for a new challenge.
Yeah.
You know,
actually, that's it. People say that all the time. Oh, career progression. That was another one, and that's easy. Career progression. Everyone actually wants a bit of career progression, and that's quite a standard one to say.
Yeah, or variety. You know.
Yeah.
So
a new challenge.
I worked for John Lewis for 10 years. Absolutely loved working there, but also I don't want to be like a hire to retire. You know, I didn't want to start at 21 and be there right until my retirement, because I want to have progression but also variety in my career.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, that is normal.
Yeah.
We don't have wanting to do something different. So try not to assume that if someone is asking you a why question, it's because they're trying to dig up some
or catch you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Abigail on LinkedIn, she has asked, in the positioning statement, how do you word things so you can demonstrate your achievements or role in key successes without coming across as arrogant or even underplaying it?
Yeah, good question. Should we take off this slide?
I'm thinking, should we take off this slide?
I tried to do just now, but I switched off my camera.
There we go.
So Abigail's question is, how do you display your competencies and your skills without coming across as arrogance?
Yeah, that's it. Or even underplaying it. It's like the balance, isn't it? Really good question, Abigail. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Even that we associate promoting ourselves with this sense of being arrogant. I wonder whether that is a female thing.
Yeah, you know, I agree.
Yeah,
because you know, when we were doing that, and then we got to the web bit, you know, where I was going to say my strengths, I was like, oh no, I don't want to come across as like big-headed.
Yeah.
So it's the modesty thing, and I wonder if it is that how we've been conditioned.
Yeah, it might be a modesty thing, definitely. I think that it's really important to have some examples that can back up whatever those strengths might be. So, you know, it could be a case of going and putting on your like investigator's hat and going and gathering the evidence. So if you're if I'm going to communicate and say that I'm really good at helping others develop and I'm good at helping grow talent, I've got to make sure that I've got 2 or 3 examples that can support that. So I personally would talk about how I developed individuals to promotion. So I spent a lot of time in my role being the person that developed somebody who was going through promotion and helping them, you know, move forwards in their career. And I sort of became known as somebody who was good at doing that. So I would, and I could find some statistics around that. So if you're going to say that you're good at something, make sure you've got some evidence that backs it up. And I think if you're looking at that evidence on a piece of paper, maybe you've made some notes, this is now factual information. This isn't your opinion versus somebody else's opinion. This is now tangible, objective evidence as to why you have a strength.
Yeah.
The second thing is you, again, this is still about gathering evidence. If you ask for feedback from other people, if somebody is telling you, you know, Lizzie, this is what you're brilliant at, and when you are at your best, like, this is what I see, it can feel less like you're blowing your own trumpet because you've heard somebody give you that feedback. So you say, oh, okay, it's not just me thinking I'm good at this, it's actually some feedback that I've received from other people. So I know asking for feedback can feel quite uncomfortable, but if you are able to ask, you know, 3 to 5 people, when have you seen me at my best? what am I doing when I'm at my best, and then capture the words that they say. It can help you distance yourself from what you're talking about, so that it doesn't feel, as I said, like you're blowing your own trumpet. What else could help? So first of all, gather the evidence, make sure that you've got some evidence. Secondly, get the feedback from other people, and probably just stick to like 3 or 4 like key strengths. So you're not trying to talk about 16, but you're coming back to sort of 3 or 4. This is what I'm good at. And I know that, and I know this because people have told me, and I know this because I've got evidence, so that you don't try and, it's about quality rather than quantity.
We've had a question from Noëlle on LinkedIn. How do you sell yourself if you are unsure about what role you'd like to embark on, especially if the one you're currently doing or currently on has nothing to do with your qualifications?
Yes.
So if you want in a complete career pivot. That's a good question.
Yes, really good question. And again, I think this comes back to strengths. So your strengths are going to be completely transferable. So if you can focus on that how piece, like how do you deliver things? Like what qualities do you have? Like what do you bring to the table? That your strengths are going to bring value regardless of the job that you're doing. So for example, one of my strengths is that I'm innovative and I come up with a lot of new ideas. So I could do that. I could be innovative and generate lots of ideas if I was a dentist, or if I was a lorry driver, or if I was a financial consultant. That is going to exist regardless of the actual job that I'm doing. The second thing I would do is to think about what transferable skills have you developed. So think about your strengths and things that you're naturally good at, but also it's likely that there are aspects of your job that you can transfer into another industry. So it might be worth having a look at what's on your existing job description and what's on the job descriptions that you're looking at, and is there an overlap, and then kind of try and focus on those as examples.
Good advice. Good.
So for example, again, I'll go back to my John Lewis days. If I had someone working in the operations team, they had to do a lot of health and safety and a lot of due diligence. So that person had to do a lot of report writing, and they had to do a lot of things like temperature checks, and they had to ensure that the shop was legally compliant.
Okay.
That person might have zero experience of working on the fish counter, but one of the things that you need to do when you're on the fish counter is like fill out a lot of reports and make sure things are accurate, and you have to take the temperature of all the products to make sure that everything's within the right temperature zone. So even though you might have zero experience working on the fish counter, the skill that you're taking with you from operations to running the fish counter is your ability to adhere to compliance, to fill out reports, to do those sorts of things. So don't chuck away all of the experience that you've had to date because you think it's not relevant. Try and see where the overlap is. So which transferable skills are going to overlap.
That's good. I like that. Okay. I don't know if anybody has any other questions that they want Lizzie to answer while we're here.
Maybe have you got any, Liz?
I'm trying to think. I think people have covered them. Let me have a think. I was going to say, you've got some workshops, haven't you, coming up? Do you want to tell people about your free workshops, and I'll have I think of some
so I've got some free workshops and I've got some paid for workshops. So I'm doing a workshop this afternoon on imposter syndrome. So
that'll be good.
Which I think is really relevant for anybody who feels as though articulating their strengths is a bit cringy. And what I would say is that when you are good at something, it generally feels quite easy. So you normally think, well, surely everyone else can just do this. Like, we'll use my example of coming up with ideas. To me, it just seems really straightforward. I'm like, doesn't everyone else just come up with 20 ideas as soon as a problem is suggested? No is the short answer to that. But because it feels easy to me, it's really easy for me to then downplay it. So imposter syndrome is a great workshop to help you kind of reconnect with the fact that what you are capable at doing is worthy, and not to downplay it and believe that you're just a fake or a fraud, or that you've kind of got through life.
And where are you doing that? When are you doing it?
So that's today at 1:00. So if anyone's up for it, 1:00 today, the tickets are being sold through Eventbrite.
Okay.
So I've then got, we can put the link in. I've then got another workshop, so a strengths workshop, which is in July. So it's Wednesday, July the 14th. And that is about identifying and activating your strengths. So being able to identify what you're good at, but then how can you then weave that into your career so that you have more impact? Because when you're playing to your strengths, you're going to be delivering better work and you're going to be more fulfilled. And then I also hold workshops for anybody who is returning to work at the end of maternity leave or parental leave. It's called Empowered Returns. I run them every month, and the next one is on Wednesday the 7th of July. It's in the evening, so it's at 7:30. So hopefully if you've managed to get your little ones asleep,
sometimes that's optimistic, it helps. That's the dream.
So I've been running those for a long time now. Those are free. They're free for anybody to attend, and that includes like quite a big workbook to help you kind of work through what's going to help you return to work, and it has loads of resources in it for things like, you know, identifying your strengths, like communicating your needs with your network.
I wish I'd done this before I went back to work after Mally, because you go and it's like, it feels like a shock to the system, doesn't it? And it's like, whoa. It's like more, I think it's more, feels bigger than like starting school again, because you feel so out of it and it feels like you're sort of entering a weird parallel universe again. So
and you're trying to do it in like these tiny snippets of time as well.
Abigail has asked, what's your advice on applying for roles if you don't know you'll love them?
That's a brilliant question, isn't it? I think it's worthwhile. So there's two parts here. Like, apply for it, and then you can always ask the questions during an interview to get more information. So just because you apply for something doesn't mean that you're committed to having to take it.
You might not get the role. You don't know what's going to happen, do you?
Or you might not want it. You know, an interview is about
two-way thing.
Both of you exchanging questions and information. It's got to be a really good fit for you as well. The second thing I would do is, if you are able to, I would try and speak to somebody who's currently doing that role and say to them, what does your day look like? You know, what are you doing on a daily basis? Like, try and get some more information about, like, how does it work in practice? Because, you know, a job description doesn't always translate into this is the reality of what you're going to be doing. So go and see if you can have some of those conversations. But I would say don't not apply for it because you think you might not like it, because actually, again, there might be a disconnect between.
I wouldn't rule yourself out. From a recruiter perspective, I would always say if you apply for roles, because I actually think the most important thing about most roles is the people you work with. I can kind of think like back to some roles that on paper weren't that exciting, but because I was working with an amazing team and ended up really like developing friends there, I loved those roles. And then some of the positions which maybe look better on paper, because I was working with, it was different team dynamic, I didn't enjoy. I think a lot of it is down to the person. And also, I've known so many instances where someone has interviewed for a role, they might not have been right for that role for a variety of reasons, but they really clicked with the person that was interviewing them, and then that interviewer has then come back at a later day, or even come back straight away and said, look, they're not right for this, but I've got something else for them, or I can create a role for them. Or they come back in a couple of months' time and say, do you know what, you were brilliant and now I've got a position for you. So I would definitely say, you know, if it ticks at least 50% of your boxes, apply. You never know what's going to happen, and say yes more than no.
And just get more information. So quite often when someone's indecisive, you know, shall I apply for job A or shall I apply for job B?
Apply for both.
Shall I stay or shall I go? It might be that you need more information before you can make the decision. So go and again put your investigator's hat on, go and have some conversations, see if you can find out what that job actually looks like. What does it look like? You know, I know somebody who got a new job and it was on paper absolutely brilliant, and then when they turned up, this was a couple of years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, when they started the job, like there wasn't a canteen, there wasn't a central space for everybody to have their lunches together. So culturally they were like, okay, I'm now just leaving the office on my own every day to go and get a sandwich. And that lack of information at the beginning of the application process, that was really critical for them to know. So what's it like? What does it feel like to work here? What does the job actually look like on a daily basis?
Yeah.
So if you can get that information, and it might be that you ask those questions in interview.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, definitely. I've done something where I've said an interview is a two-way thing. So obviously they're going to be asking you questions, but make sure you prepare and have questions for them as well. And the market is turning. I think it's becoming a more candidate-driven market. So, you know, I think you definitely are well within your rights, and you're not going to be selling yourself short or putting hiring managers off if you ask questions. It just makes you look prepared and actually makes you look keen. To have some questions.
And they, you know, I think that hiring managers, they also know that, you know, you're an adult, your career is an important part of your life. You know, if you don't ask questions, it might give the wrong impression as well.
Yeah.
It's an important decision for you to make as well as for them to make.
Yeah, it has to be right. They want a long-term hire, and so they want it to be right for you. Okay, so where can people find you if they want to know more about you, if they want to connect with you, follow you? Where do you hang out online, Lizzie?
So I hang out on LinkedIn quite a lot. So I'm Lizzie Martin. So just search for my name. I'm then on Instagram as Work Life Mother, and my website is worklifemother.com. And I work with individuals, but also organizations. So organizations that want to invest in their valuable talent. So kind of a two-pronged approach.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I will get you to send me the links to your upcoming workshops so I can add them in the comments, and obviously a link to your website if people want to find out more, and we'll link you on LinkedIn and Instagram as well if people want to connect or follow. But yeah, I don't think no one else has posted any other questions, so I'm sure if somebody has a burning question or is watching this on replay, they can get in touch with you and ask you those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Just send me a direct message. I absolutely love to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, lovely. All right, Abigail said thank you. So thank you so much for your time, Lizzie. I've learned so much, so thank you. It's been brilliant.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
See you
Bye,
later.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for watching.